Hey everyone, welcome to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K. Kardashev have a new album, Alunea, out this week. I had to get them on the podcast. I had a chat with drummer Sean about the album, their first live performance in 8 years, and a lot more. But before we get into that chat, I'd like to play a track from their label mates, Messa, who are an Italian doom metal act. They released their fourth album, The Spin, earlier this month. Here's the track from it, Fire on the Roof.
Fire
And that was Fire on the Roof by Messa of their album The Spin. If you enjoyed that single, check out the link in the show notes for more details about them. Now here's my chat with Sean from Kardashev. Hi Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No pressure, but I'm just going to put this up front. 3 years ago, I spoke to Nico when you guys released Liminal Rights, and that ended up being one of my albums of the year. So when something like this shows up, and when I know that you'll have a new album, Alunea, there is slight expectations of sort, but overall, very happy to speak to you this time around.
Yeah, I'm super happy to be on. Happy to be talking about the new album.
So we're, just for context to everyone tuned in, we're actually a week away from the release of your upcoming album, Alunea. How does it feel to be doing press and just waiting on the release, I guess?
Well, it's so funny because the way the way it works with writing an album and then recording an album and then doing everything afterwards is the time frame is so much longer for the band in the background than it is for everybody else. Like we just announced this album I don't know, a handful of months ago, but we've known that it was coming for at least a solid year. We've been working on it for quite a while. So the excitement for us was months and months and months ago when we were actually writing it and everything was new. And so it's fun to sort of revitalize it and start to show people singles and start to see people's reactions because it's making it new for us again. So it's fun, and it's kind of a strange experience. That the big difference from being a band that's like not with a label is you write a song, you record it, you release it, you get feedback right away. And with this, everything is so long and drawn out that you kind of have to step back and then step back in. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it does. I mean, and this is one of the recurring conversations I have with bands, right? And considering just the way the label releases work and the press around it and stuff like that. But one of the things I want to quickly touch upon at the outset of this chat is I really enjoy Kardashev because of just the whole kind of storytelling and the concepts that you'll have going along with it, right? It's not just the music itself. Now, Alunea, when I was reading, when I got the first press release, is actually linked to one of your earlier albums, the Almanac, and it kind of picks off where one of the songs, Beyond Sun and Moon, kind of leaves off. Since I said that I had spoken to Nico a while back, I know that Nico and the rest of the band, all of you kind of have music kind of kept there, right? Riffs and stuff like that. At which point did you all realize that you all wanted to do a continuation of the earlier stories, right? Because Liminal Right was completely different. So where did you decide that conceptually you all wanted to link it back?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I can remember the conversations because essentially we had a number of the songs, not all of them, but probably 75% of the songs written musically, because we generally write musically first, and then Mark comes and sort of adds his part and kind of gives the song like meaning and life afterwards. And if I remember correctly, we had about 75% of the songs written, but we didn't know what tied them together. We didn't know what direction we were going to go. And we had always we'd always really loved how much the fans love the story piece of the Almanac. And the Almanac actually carries the story from, I think, previous albums as well. So we had always agreed that we didn't want to leave that behind. And Liminal Right felt a little bit strange in that it was a departure from the overall sort of like the universe, the story that had been built, and the language of Alunea and all those things. So the conversation was like, do we go back to it, or do we do another sort of sidetrack here? And Mark really wanted to bring it back, and from a continuity standpoint, we thought that was a really great idea. We thought that it would really, really tie people back to what they liked about the Almanac, because I mean, I was a big fan of Kardashev and the Almanac before I joined the band, and so for us to be able to come back to that afterwards felt really good, because we did the Almanac, and then we did the EP Bearing of Shadows, which had nothing to do with the Almanac, and then we did Liminal Right, which had nothing to do with the Almanac. And so it just felt like it was naturally time to pick the story back up and continue on. And the feedback we've been getting so far has definitely been letting us know that that was probably the right choice.
Yeah, and I must add at this point, right? One of the things also about the band is you're so connected to your audience itself, right? I mean, you'll have the enlisted traveler program. There's constantly chatter happening over there. There's the Discord and things like that. I was subscribed for, I think, close to a year before, thanks to Indian credit card and payment problems, I couldn't renew it. But I must say, I've never seen a more engaged kind of audience. I mean, other than all of that, there's also the Twitch, which Nico keeps doing, right? So it's crazy. So I know that the fact is that you'll have actually got feedback a while back also, right? It's not
Yeah.
just right now that the press is kind of, I think the press is one of the last few people who are kind of getting to it before the rest of the audience itself. But tell me at which point, I mean, especially now, since you have an outsider perspective from not being part of the band when the Almanac and all those albums which were linked together released, how is it now working and being part of this entire thing? Because again, all of you are kind of remotely working on it, right? So what was it when you first heard that you're kind of working on that, and how did you kind of approach it?
Yeah. So me coming in, initially being an outsider, I mean, it's been a while now. It's been, gosh, probably 6+ years now, but it still
Yeah.
feels it still feels recent. But it's interesting because I was a fan of the band first, and so that hasn't really stopped. And maybe that's kind of weird to say, but I'm still a fan of the band because it's not something that it wasn't my brainchild. I didn't create it. I didn't originate it. And so I still appreciate it for it being this thing that I'm just adding to rather than it being fully my own thing, if that makes sense. So my approach to it has generally been that I want to serve, Kardashev for the reasons that I initially began to love Kardashev as a band. So I'm not coming in trying to make it all about me. I'm not trying to make it all about my performance because at the end of the day, I love Kardashev, and I don't want to be the thing that takes away from Kardashev being Kardashev. So my approach is just to preserve the elements that I love about Kardashev by trying to add my piece without taking away. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but I'm approaching it kind of as a almost as a fan contributor in a way. Even though I've been an official member of the band for quite a long time at this point, I'm still kind of a fan first, if that makes any sense.
No, I totally get it, right? And that's what I was trying to tap into because, especially when you've gone from someone who's been listening to this, and especially when you think of it and put it into the context, as a fan, you're probably listening to this music far more than the band themselves, because at some point they're like, okay, we've had enough, or like to the entire production, right? I mean, I don't know how many times I've listened to Liminal Right, and I don't even want to think or count how much I've listened to Alunea already since I've got a press copy, right? So it just becomes kind of like second nature. And then to add to the fact that you all actually performed some of this material live. So again, it's just all of that put into context. But tell me about working on this album, right? Because from what I was reading, and I remember also the last time Nico talking about it, is you guys are pro at technology, considering you're in Canada, the three of them were in Arizona, but till mid last year, Nico was in Arizona and he's moved now to Germany. So you're truly now an international band if you
Yeah.
weren't already. So was Nico still part of, I mean, still in the US while you all were recording and writing the album, or how did that work?
Yeah. So he moved to Germany shortly after we had basically finished all of our tracks. I remember that he was frantically exporting all of the stems and all of the audio files to make sure that he had it ready to take with him to Germany so that we could then start working on on the process to sort of prep the album. So it was definitely, it was easier to collaborate, being that when we were writing this album, I was in Canada, but the three of them were all able to be in sort of the same area. So the next album, whenever that may be, that will be a new experience for us because he will be in Germany, they'll be in Arizona, and I'm here in Canada. So, but yeah, our process it's very collaborative, and I think that because it's been so collaborative, we'll take that with us to whatever new circumstances we find ourselves in, where somebody brings a song idea, and then that song idea is shared with all of us, and then we just start to internalize it and see where we think that it could go. Nobody ever really comes with a full song and says like, this is the song from start to finish. Let's go. It's much more of like, it's like a seed or something that sort of germinates. And then we all have complete freedom to say, I don't like anything about that, or I like these parts, but this part shouldn't be there. Or like me as the drummer, I will come in and say, I really like all of this, but I think that we could go 4 bars longer on this piece and try maybe a different chord progression. It's just what my brain expects. And then Nico will be like, hey, let me try it. And then he'll post the version up with that. And then we'll be, that actually worked. Or nah, that wasn't it. It's still very, very collaborative. And because we are so comfortable with using technology to our benefit, it allows us to move really, really quick on ideas. Kind of similar to how you would if we were in a shared jam space, but instead we're, thousands of miles separated.
Yeah, and I think post me speaking to Nico the last time, considering he said you'll all use Guitar Pro, I'm not sure if you'll still use it. But I spoke to the UK band Monuments, and they told me they wrote the entire album, actually, their last one, on Discord. And I was like, fuck. Like, I mean, I'm sure the founders or whoever came up with the idea of Discord had no idea that there would be like metal bands writing their album, but yeah, that's how they wrote it, and I found that really ingenious, actually.
You know who the OG of that is, as far as I know? I've always been a big fan of the band Death,
okay.
and so Chuck Schuldiner, the main guy from Death, he was working with Gene Hoglan, his drummer. But Gene Hoglan was up in Vancouver near where I am, and Chuck was wherever he was
in Florida. Yeah,
Chuck would send him cassette tapes of his ideas, and then Gene Hoglan would record them and send them back. So they were like the OGs of this whole like cross continental sort of collaboration, and they wrote some of the greatest metal albums of all time. So
yeah. Okay, at this point, I think we've talked quite a bit of Alunea. Let's give everyone a taste of the album if they already haven't heard it. Which song would you like me to play, and why?
Let's play Seed of the Night.
Okay.
That song was early on in our writing was I don't know if one of my favorites is the right term, because they're all like my children. Like I love them all equally and for different ways. But it was one that stood out to me just because it has this different spirit, this different melody to it that's very, I don't know, it's kind of this like hopeful, positive energy, but it still really, really embodies the sort of the heavy emotional feel of Kardashev. But it felt like a bit of a departure, and so I just really like it.
Awesome. So here it is.
You are function and form, made to hold the names from before. Those I love live in your bones, guiding you a star in the sky. Pathfinder.
And that was Seed of the Night by Kardashev. And I'm here with drummer Sean. So, Sean, one of the things I also found, and I can't remember where because I was doing a bunch of research before I jumped on this call, but one of your tracks, actually, which is said the first track for Alunea was written all the way back in July 2022, which was with the working title CSI Miami, which is actually the track now, which is titled We Could Fold the Stars. What was Seed of the Night called, or what is the working title for that called?
Seed of the Night has always been called Seed of the Night, strangely, but we refer to it internally as SOTN. So it was just kind of in my brain, anyways. I would always just read it as Sutton. It was just Sutton for a long time. But what's really funny about the whole idea of working titles is I still only really know the album by the working titles. I need to learn the official titles.
Oh my God, I can actually imagine your track, whatever, set list with all just like the working titles for you at least.
Do you want to know the working title for the first single, which was Reunion?
Go ahead.
It's Lemonade. And Mark actually sang the words lemonade over the sort of the outro sing-along type part, where he says, I finally found you, I am here, you are there, or whatever the words are. Before he knew what the words were going to be, he would say, I finally found you, lemonade, lemonade. And he's like, don't worry, guys, I'll figure out the words there. I'll figure it eventually. But for a long time, the song was just lemonade, to the point that like I have kids and they've heard all these demos a million times at this point. And so my son would be singing along the words lemonade, lemonade. And then when we finally changed it, he's like, hey, you changed the words. What the heck?
Oh God. Now I'm going to have a tough time kind of unhearing that part in my brain when I listen to the track next. But okay, fair enough. One of the things also I believe, and I was reading one of your social media posts, is finally you are actually putting together the language of the traveler and kind of uncovering the story of the Almanac and Alunea with an Alunea dictionary. Whose work was that, and how did you all go about tracking that? Because that's a serious amount of work, right?
That's a serious amount of work. That is something that's an endeavor that Mark took on years ago. He actually started that, I believe, during the Almanac era. So there was some Alunea on the album, the Almanac. That's when he wrote that, and that's technically referred to as a conlang, or a constructed language. And I have not delved deep enough to fully understand how that works, but essentially there are different structures and ways in which you can kind of put together a language. I think it's kind of similar to what Tolkien did in Lord of the Rings for the various languages that he created. And so Mark being just the absolute unique and brilliant person that he is, put together this entire conlang. And since then, we've had fans who have learned the language of Alunea. Alunea is actually technically how it's pronounced, Alunea. And okay. Mark will now say that these people have spent more time with the language than he has, and they know it better than he does, and they know how to pronounce it and speak it better than he does as well, which is quite wild. It's really, really great to have such dedicated fans to sort of like carry the torch in that way.
Okay, I mean, having said that, have you seen anyone with, I don't know, tattoos or something like that of Alunea?
I've definitely seen my fair share of Kardashev tattoos, but I don't think I've seen any Alunea tattoos yet. But I mean, it's still early. The album's not out yet, so maybe.
Okay, fair enough. Now, this is a part I particularly enjoy doing with every band I speak to, and I'm going to keep this as a recurring thing. At this point, I've asked so many bands this. I'm going to make a playlist, probably monthly, of it. Is what are you currently listening to? So, whether metal, non-metal, whatever it is, let us know.
Yeah, what am I currently listening to? That's a great question. So, I'm just going to pull up my Spotify here, because there's always a lot of different things going on. But I most recently found a new song posted by Humanity's Last Breath. I'm a fan of that band, and so their new song, which is some funky word. What's the word? What is it? It's Anthracite. Anthracite by Humanity's Last Breath. I've been listening to that. I think that's pretty interesting. There is a fantastic, absolutely fantastic band. I think they're from South Africa called Constellatia.
Okay.
And the album is called The Language of Limbs. And I think it's absolutely incredible. I would recommend everyone listen to it. If you like Kardashev, listen to it. It's so good.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for those recommendations. I'm gonna add it to the playlist. I think everyone's gonna enjoy, and I think it's interesting because the last person I asked this question is from Nepal actually, but lives in New York, and he talked about listening to a lot of Bollywood music and Indian music, and I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. so
It's
so
awesome.
that's a cool thing. Now, again, like you've kind of spoken about, right? There's Progression, Exipio, the Almanac, and now Alunea, which you all kind of refer to as the Kardashev mythos. Is it too early to ask you what's next? Is it going to be part of this mythos or is it going to be something else?
To be honest, I don't think that we know yet. I think that we let things be very, very organic and sort of see where they lead. We weren't sure where we were going to go until we started writing these songs, and then the songs kind of dictated where we wanted to take it. So at this point in time, I think that we're completely open to what comes next, but I don't think that we fully know yet.
Okay, so definitely keep people on their toes and keep
Yep.
them expecting something new. Uh, but another thing I definitely want to touch upon before we end this chat is you'll actually performed live for the first time in 8 years at Euroblast, and you'll have a couple of videos out from that performance. What was that experience like? If you could kind of tell us in brief.
Yeah, that was a absolutely fantastic experience. So none of us really knew how it would go because we've kind of built this band off the premise of we're remote, we're mainly a studio project. We probably won't really play live, but when this opportunity came up, we all kind of jumped at it. We just realized that we were really missing that sort of dynamic of being able to play live. And so we all sort of prepped personally by ourselves, but we didn't know what it was going to be like when we got together. So we actually booked a studio space or a rehearsal space for 2 days prior to the performance. And those 2 days were the first 2 days that we ever actually played together as the configuration that we're currently in. And it was great just to see that we actually had this really, really great chemistry when we were all in the same room that we hoped that we would have, but we weren't really sure. You don't really know until you go for it. And so it translated really well to the rehearsal. And when we actually performed on stage, it translated really, really well live on that stage as well. We were really, really happy with how it went. It was just an incredible experience. And we were blown away by the reception we got. Um, we had a packed crowd. Everyone seemed to stay for us. And not only that, but I met so many people after the show who had come from all over the world just to see us play because they knew how rare it was that we were playing live. I was talking to one guy who had taken a flight from Toronto, and the minute that our show was done, he just wanted to come and say hi to us, but he was actually getting back on the train to catch his plane back. I met a guy who had flown out from Dallas, Texas. I met people from all over the place, much farther than I would ever personally travel to go see a band. And it felt incredibly special, just to meet these people from our community, and a lot, not all of them, but a handful of these people were from the enlisted traveler program as well. So it was really kind of cool to see these people who were really, really bought into what we're doing.
Wow, that I think is something for the books. But since you said that, and now you'll have got that taste of performing live, is it too soon again to ask when can we hear of Kardashev performing next?
I don't have anything that I can announce, but after that experience, we all agreed that we are available for festivals. So any festival promoters listening or people who want to get us on festivals, that is basically that is your next best bet to see us live is at a festival. I think touring is not going to be something that we'll be doing anytime soon, but festivals after that experience, hell yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Sean, for taking time out and speaking to me. But for everyone still tuned in, do you have any final words?
All I can say is thanks for checking out Kardashev, and I really hope that everybody digs the new album. I think you will. I think it's one of our strongest ones yet, but yeah, check it out when it comes out next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
And that was Sean from Kardashev. If you enjoyed the single that I played, do check out the rest of the album. They've also got merch and a lot more. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, follow on whichever platform you're listening to this episode on. Follow me on social media. I'm Trendcrusher on all social media platforms. That's all I've got for this week. I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.